Okay, so welcome to another episode of the R Plus Brain Dump podcast. And we've got a really great topic today. We're going to be talking about um, a phenomenon that we're going to make up a word for. Um, so we have a horse named Soji, who was our original sanctuary Mustang. And she is the reason I made an entire Mustang sanctuary because she was the untrainable Mustang. And after training many, many Mustangs, in hindsight, Soji's really easy to train. She's not a difficult horse. We built this whole world for her, thinking that this was impossible. So like to Soji a horse, to it means to keep the kid gloves on, treat them like they're very fragile, and not really progress because you're like afraid to mess things up or you don't know what to do next. So that's the general topic. And so if you hear us referring to Sojiing a horse in the future, that's the idea of like stopping to question, is this horse as hard as I think it is? And is this horse as hard as it was a month ago? Because that's an important factor too.
Hmm.
So we'll jump in on that and basically the two topics here are like, are you handling the horse with too much kid gloves and really putting like no uncomfortable situations and tiptoeing around and going really slow? Or are you proceeding with no awareness and the horse has no baseline level of comfort around you and you're like, why won't it let me pick up its hooves? So those are kind of the two paths that we see with sanctuary Mustangs of people either like really tiptoeing or not establishing that baseline level of comfort. So we've got some good points and a lot of good examples, but we'll just jump right in.
I think soji is a really good example of that, like starting a horse. And I think a lot of it comes down to where our skill set is at the time.
Mm.
And sometimes, sometimes we don't have skills until we learn it. And that's kind of crazy. And sometimes we have a horse that is just above our pay grade. And we look back at that horse a year later once we've learned the things and we're like, oh, actually, this was kind of easy, you
Mhm.
know. But it's important to remember that we are always learning too. So I think that that helps to keep in mind, and that horses aren't, they don't have a timeline, they don't have a due date. If it takes you a year to figure out how to train them, it takes you a year to figure out how to train them. That's
Mhm.
okay.
Yes, but also like when to ask for help, when to get resources, because
Yeah.
I've definitely seen several people who want that like magical Mustang connection and they get their first Mustang and it's in the round pen and they're just like reading a book and hanging out and like trying to hand feed the horse and don't have a really systematic way of doing things. And th they think that they got a really hard Mustang.
Mm.
But and this only comes from having trained so many hard Mustangs is like I see that Mustang and I'm like, I know I could train that Mustang in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you see and you watch people do this and I have a friend on Facebook and I saw the moment it clicked for her about the systematic positive reinforcement 'cause she's been working for 6 months trying to train this horse and all of a sudden boom progress and like consistent really great progress. I'm like that's so cool. I want to save everyone that first 6 months. That's like my my goal of
Yeah.
like get you know when to ask for help and if you're struggling. And another thing is like when I worked with Soji, I had a really solid theoretical book smart idea on learning theory and how to do it. But there is a certain amount of confidence that comes from having actually done it and knowing to stay on the right track. Like, oh, I know this is gonna work and we're gonna, keep working on this and like not second guessing and backing up and trying different things. And that is the sort of thing that comes from experience or just like having a mentor who can kind of keep you on track and tell you, yeah, you're doing a great job. Just keep doing what you're doing and don't wander off and try different things because this is part of the process and what slows it down the most is like second guessing and trying to pick another route and trying to problem solve it. And it's like there's not a problem to solve here. You just keep doing.
Yeah.
Um,
On the flip side,
mhm.
sometimes people can get stuck in like a, well, this is the thing that needs to be done next. We need to do this thing, and it's like
Mm,
this approach isn't working. Pivot somewhere else.
yes.
Come back to that. Like
Yeah,
I'm
the
just gonna
tunnel
become this advocate
vision.
apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you two are fun to work with because Mackenzie, you're the very fast trainer. You're like, all right, they figured that out. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And
Mhm.
if they don't figure it out right away, you are the type to be like, okay, let's if they can't figure it out this way, let's do it this way. And it's taken you some learning to be like, okay, no, just stick with it, trust the process.
Yeah.
Whereas Tatiana, you're the type to be like, let's go nice and slow, go very step by step, make sure the horse is comfortable. And so it's fun watching the two of you because you balance each other out really
Yeah.
perfectly. It's a good,
Mhm.
I know when you guys were training Penny that you guys had that where it's like, okay, Tatiana, you do the slow, tedious, monotonous stuff, and then Mackenzie will step in when she's ready to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, yeah, and Penny is such a good example of like everything because she's one that definitely was a very difficult Mustang. Like she and Blue are top two most difficult Mustangs we've gentled.
I don't know if
And
I agree with that.
huh?
I don't know if I agree with that because like Penny, yeah, like she took a long time to trust. Like she was a horse that like really needed to be convinced that humans weren't going to hurt her and that they were worth working with. Penny
Mm,
was like very like self-confident, like she had her stuff together. Like she knew that she didn't
mhm.
need people and you had to make sure that like she thought you were worth engaging with and not
That's
going to
the
hurt
hard
her.
part for like
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
every trainer ever,
oh, well, okay. Look. You
except
threw me
you.
in with Hank and Rusty at first. Okay, I don't have a normal basis of this stuff.
Yeah.
But
I
like
mean
once
she was Jenny.
once you
It
get
was
over that hump with her,
mhm.
like she picks up stuff super fast, like
Yeah.
fearless. Like she's. It was really just that initial like, hey, humans are cool. You should play with humans. And then once she was
Mhm.
like, oh my god, you're so right.
Yeah.
That's true. She
She's
did have a
great.
quick turnaround. Like once she was on board, she was on board. She was
Yeah,
ready. She was
Yes.
almost like a normal horse to train. Like yeah, she didn't know anything yet, but
Hmm.
she was ready to learn it.
Yes.
Um yeah, whereas like Hank and Rusty were are still the type where it's like, okay, just baby step your way through everything. And even though they're on board with training, they don't really trust
Mm.
what
yeah.
you're doing
There's some
behaviorally.
more deep seated stuff there that like they're still working through.
Well,
And that's fair.
my thinking is that like Tatiana thinks that Penny is not that hard, but it's really because you're an expert in that type of horse,
Oh, thank
and
Yes.
you.
it's hard to see it from a beginner's lens because
Yeah.
you know like multiple trainers worked with her and didn't get anywhere. She came to us with a drag line on on a neck rope that they couldn't get off of her. She was a
Yeah,
very difficult horse, but I think, and I think she taught us a lot, but also just kind of like cemented what we already knew from working with all the Hanks and the Rusties and whatnot.
Mhm.
And the just keep going, this is gonna work. Like we had so much confidence of like, no, she's going to turn around. She's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I think in hindsight, if we had done exactly what we did with Penny, with Hank and Rusty from the day they arrived, they'd be different horses. And we'd be
I
saying the
agree
same
with
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think we do that a lot. I think like Hank and Rusty are victims of the kit gloves
Yes.
of the okay, we don't want to make them uncomfortable. I have a student who is like that with one of our horses. Anytime the horse has to think, anytime the horse has to problem solve, she immediately steps in and tries to break it down, tries to make it easier, tries to like she can't resist but to cue 600 times and
Mhm.
like cue making the cue a little bit easier to understand each time and you're sitting there like if you just gave her a second to figure it out yeah she's uncomfortable for those few seconds it takes her to figure out the question
Mm.
but when she has the opportunity to solve the puzzle herself, she learns it so much deeper than when you give her the answer.
Mm.
It's like helping a kid with their homework. Like, if you just tell them 2 plus 2 equals 4, they didn't learn how to do the math. They just learned that one equation. So, like, they
Congratulations, you helicopter parented your horse.
exactly, exactly. And that's great. And some horses need that in the early stages. But most horses, like Penny, is a good example of like she needed real gentle, slow baby steps. And then she flipped a switch and she said, all right, I'm on board. What
Mm.
are we doing? And
Hmm.
at that point, now it's time for like, all right, now you can be uncomfortable for a couple seconds while you figure out a puzzle. You can work through some of these more challenging questions or challenging emotional moments of like, I know I'm asking for your foot and your baby is crashing into you, but like, could you focus for a second? And that's hard, but she is capable of doing it. And by never asking her to do it because we're trying to be too careful, we're actually limiting her.
Right. Yeah. So,
Oh, that reminds me.
mhm.
I think there's also like a big difference. I know I've gotten like kind of stuck in this sometimes where like the difference between like stress because they're trying to like figure out a puzzle or it's a new situation but not like a scary or threatening one, or stress because there's still like lingering fear about humans as a potential danger, or like the survival stress versus like the but I don't know what to do here kind of
Mm.
stress. And I
Hmm.
think that like obviously the figuring out and stuff like that can be very productive, but the like potentially confusing it with like if they're having trouble with like you picking up their hoof, is it because they're scared of you touching them because that might be dangerous, or is it because they don't quite get what you're asking or trying to figure it out?
And
Mm.
I think
You
that
know,
comes down to trusting the training and trusting your horse. If
absolutely.
you have worked on touching their leg and they are genuinely comfortable with it, and then you go to the next step of picking up their foot or something, and now they're problem solving, just trust the training. Let it ride out a little bit.
Mm.
And it's kind of like with my student learning how to judge. If I gave a cue like send to a cone, do I let her figure out going to the cone, or do I take another couple steps and help her go closer to the cone? And at what point, like if I cue her and she's just not getting it, at what point do I take a step and help her find the answer?
Mm.
And knowing where that line is, that's every horse, every situation, that line is going to be a little bit different. So it's all about being able to judge the body language of the horse
Mm-hmm.
and trust their ability to problem solve. They can do it. Give them, and if you, horses, if you ask them a question and they cannot find the answer, and then next time you ask them the question and you help them find the answer, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm never training with you again. I hate humans. This all sucks.
Mm.
They're gonna, if they miss an answer, it's okay. It's okay for them to say, what is a cone? What am I supposed to do with that?"
Let
And
them
then the
be
next
wrong.
time
It's
you,
not going to kill them.
Mm.
yeah, yeah, that it's okay for, and I think letting them be wrong sometimes, not regularly, not enough for them to be frustrated or like give
Don't set them
up.
up for failure.
Yeah,
You
don't
know.
set them up for failure. You really do want to set them up for success, but if you cue them and you waited too long and and you thought they were going to figure it out, but they didn't, it's okay. You
Mm.
know? I think everybody's so worried that their horse like, he gave up and he's going to leave. Well, okay. Give him a minute. He'll be back. He'll figure it out, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that's a probably an anxiety about liberty, about really not trusting the horse. Trust the horse's ability to do what you're asking them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like if your horse is consistently leaving, like
Oh,
there's something else going on there. Like the session should be fun for them. They should want to engage,
Mhm.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and it's like
Go
it's
back and
funny.
like look at what's going on
Yeah.
there.
it's funny working with so many different horses here at the sanctuary because we were working with Angel yesterday, who is my old domestic horse, who's, just like traditionally trained n- normal riding horse. And we were teaching her to ride bridleless. Um, and we were doing it by throwing a ring, and that was like the helper cue, and then using the neck rope to get her to steer. And boy, she does not have that seeking system yet. It's so funny. Like if the ring is right in front of her, she'll touch it. Uh, but like the moment you ask her to go find the ring after you threw it like 10, 20 feet, nah, she'll just
Yeah.
like snoot at the ground, eat the food, and like so the whole session was just like, when do we show her the answer? How hard do we make it? But then like you get Parker in there.
Oh
Parker
yeah.
Oh man.
is he will find that ring. He will lift up the cone and see if it's under the cone. He will like snoot around. He
And
will move
destroy it.
objects. If there is a ring in the arena, he will find it. And seeing the difference in that problem solving and resilience is interesting. And like, how do you get from point A to point B? And also, is there too much seeking and
Yes.
resilience in Parker? Because like, we're not working on ring now. Oh, he found one
Can
somewhere.
can we focus? Yeah. Yeah.
We get
I
that
mean,
intensity with cue control,
Yes.
you
yes,
know?
there's such a, it's always a balance. We're watching that exact same thing with Unicorn and Kismet right now, because
Mm.
Kismet, she has all the try in the world. This girl will try for 6 hours to find the right answer. She is, and once she finds the right answer once, she's got it. She's like, oh, this is what we're doing. I've learned, we're good, let's go.
Mhm.
And whereas Unicorn, we could sit there with the cone in front of her nose and she will be like, what's a cone? What? What am I supposed to do something with that? Because like it's just a cone. And it was the same with Dream, our Disney horse.
Mm.
He was probably the horse that, traditionally I would say he's really dumb, but obviously he's not dumb. He worked in Disney World, like a
He was
theme
Disney
park.
broke. You don't
Yeah.
react to things in Disney.
Yet you don't notice things in your environment. You just like me being autistic in Disney World, I put my blinders on
Yeah.
and I get through. There is too much stimulation, so you just get through. And whereas so Dream has learned to tune out everything in his environment. Don't think, don't problem solve because there's no problems. Just chill until good things happen. And that's how he goes. And he never had harsh or cruel or bad training. He was just like, oh, okay, if I just stand here until you tell me what to do. And if I stand for 6 hours, then I stand for 6 hours. But when you put a cone directly in front of his nose and you want him to target it, he has no idea that he's supposed to actually engage with his environment. He
Mm.
doesn't It's not part of his brain yet. He doesn't know to seek. He doesn't know to problem solve. And I think Unicorn's a lot in the same boat of like she is happy, she's easygoing, but she doesn't know to think, to try. I think we had the same thing. Was it Jimmy who we did that with, where
Yeah.
like we tried to teach
Oh
her
God,
targeting
Jimmy.
and she's like, just tell me what to do. I don't know what this thing is. Tell me what you want. And it was funny because like they're very well trained, but they didn't have problem solving. They
Mm.
just puppeteer me into position and then give me a treat, you know?
Yeah.
Jimmy is specifically is wild because yeah, she does have like the like not really engaging with the environment thing, but she also has the most intense drive of any horse I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like once she knows like you want her to do something, she's like, I will do that thing with my entire being. I'm gonna nick her the entire time, and I'm gonna just like freak out of pure joy. And it's like, oh, how do we get you to calm way down? Like way, way down. So calming down right now,
Yeah.
please. Like,
Well, and that's probably where under her Jimmy, so Jimmy's a girl,
Mhm.
her
yes,
Jimmy
Jimmy is a girl.
learning, yeah, learning how to problem solve if she understood problem solving and resilience,
Mm,
she would probably be less intense about, well, I'm doing this one thing that I figured out earns the food, and I don't know anything else. I don't know how to make food happen other than this one scenario in this moment.
This
And yeah,
one thing
maybe,
earns the food. It's the best thing in the world.
right. So, like, if she understood the problem solving methodology, she would probably tone down that arousal because she understands how the game works
mm,
rather than just being waiting till you tell her the answer so that you can give her the treat.
mhm. Yeah,
And
and
again, it's like being able to do the math versus somebody telling you the math answer.
yeah, and it's funny because Jimmy and Parker both came from the prison program, both came from the same person. Like they had very similar
Similar
backgrounds.
backgrounds.
And I think Parker was like that for a while. But Parker, unlike Jimmy, Parker had this like baseline level of anxiety. And I think when he latched on to the fact that it's a game and that like calmed his anxiety and made him feel like he was in control. And so like he really latched on to the problem solving, whereas
Yeah.
Jimmy was like, I liked all this anyway, and now there's food.
Yes. Like,
God!
Yeah.
Like,
So interesting.
yeah.
And I think it's interesting because it also brings up what we were talking about earlier about like resilience in horses and like how do you create a horse that is okay with a canoe flying off the roof at them? True story there with Zial. And one of our clients was asking, like, well, how do you prepare a horse for a bird flying into its face without actually throwing a bird in its face? And I'm like, that is an excellent question. And it's about just like letting all of the new environmental cues be information and be part of the game. Like, oh, what's the puzzle to solve here? And the example of like dream versus like the traditionally desensitized horses with like systematic desensitization, like not positive reinforcement style of like they're taught just tune out the environment and tune out everything. And like that can be done very gently with some habituation and all that stuff, but it does teach them like just ignore everything. And positive reinforcement teaches them this could be a hint. Every new stimulus is a hint. So it's
Yes.
like and either way you get a very like a confident horse if you're practicing these things, but it's different, it's a very different vibe with positive reinforcement. Whereas like they can be, like I worry about Zial being not afraid of enough things. Like she should have been more afraid. There was a wind gust and there was a shipping container with a canoe on the top and like 40-mile-an-hour wind gust, and the canoe went flying and almost landed on her with a rider.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah,
girl, survival instincts. Come on.
Yeah.
no, but she had just enough survival instincts. She literally scooted forward 3 steps and then kept trotting in her perfect little calm trot,
Oh
and was
my
like, and that's what we want in our horses, right? We want self-preservation, awareness of the environment. Because like if she had been desensitized in a traditional way, she could have tuned that out so much that it would have actually landed on her. Like, and you do see this, like, we want our horses to be bomb proof. But if a literal bomb goes off, I want my horse to get the hell out of there and get to safety. Like, we don't
Yes.
actually want them to hurt themselves.
And
And
like they can do
sometimes,
that calmly and without panicking, you know? It's
yeah,
just like
Yes.
it's the like preservation of awareness while also having that genuine baseline calm and even interest in things.
yeah, being
It's
able
like,
to
yeah,
return to baseline.
yes, the
Yeah.
resilience. It's
And
like you'll get the same results of like, yeah, chill horse who's willing to do whatever, but it just like it's a very different emotional place that it's coming from.
Hmm.
yeah. And that's interesting because we have three Clydesdales, two mares who one had difficult aversive training, one had no aversive training, and then both were trained positively the rest of their lives. And then we have Dream, who was the Disney horse, and he had very gentle traditional training throughout his life, very, very kind, very thoughtful. Um, and good care. So, and then all of them have been positive reinforcement since they came here. And we took the three of them out for a trail ride at our friend's farm yesterday. And Dream is the spookiest of the three of our horses. And he's the most, um, when like so there was some dog toys on the ground, and he was like, that smells dangerous. I'm staying away from that. I'm not touching that thing. And whereas our other horses were running over, throwing the dog toy around, you know, like they were engaging with their environment, and Dream was avoiding his environment. He was saying, that doesn't look safe to me, so I'm just going to put my blinders on. And if you want me to walk past it, I will. But I'm certainly not going to engage with it. Whereas the mares were like, hey, that's an opportunity. And, one of our mares had no traditional training. So she was 12 years old and was feral, but she was a Clydesdale. And so she was trained all positively. And she is the most confident horse I think I've ever had. She's just so, except now Kismet, Kismet now rivals her because they just they haven't had a bad day in their life, and so they're like, ah, something scary's happening. Well, how do we play with that? How do we turn it into a game? How do we puzzle this? And I think that's super cool that they get that level of connection and fun with the world rather than just avoiding the bad thing. Now they're engaging with it, problem solving it,
Hmm.
and seeking it out.
It's like
Yeah.
horses are prey animals, but they really don't have that many actual predators in the wild, especially in the US. Like, that's
Oh
part of
yeah.
the overpopulation thing. I don't want to get into all the Mustang stuff, but like there are no animals that will consistently take down a healthy adult wild Mustang. And so it's like, yeah, they're prey animals, but they're not actually naturally as flighty as people tend to think they are. They know that like they're more or less like not very much not top of the food chain, herbivore and whatnot,
Mm.
but like the natural state isn't to spook at anything and everything like it would be like a rabbit or something.
Hmm.
Like they're a lot more sort of stable, kind of no pun intended, than people give them credit for.
Right, because
Until they've been taught to be afraid.
Exactly.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
much of it is like a handling thing, and that's just thought of as like, oh, that's just how they are naturally. It's really not.
Yeah, so
Anyhow.
many of the problems are created by humans because you think
Mhm.
about it, Mustangs in the wild, they're energy conservers. If they have a Mustang that's like freaking out at every little thing, it gets kicked out of the herd because like that's not the vibe they want. They
You're
want,
wasting our energy. Yeah.
yeah, they want to save their energy. They
You are
really
going to get
like,
us killed. Get out.
yeah, like they're very calm. Like even with predators drinking at the water hole near them, the what causes them to become more flighty is when you put them in a vulnerable position, like backing them into a corner or putting a halter on them and touching them. Because like horses out on the wild plains, they can run away anywhere.
Yeah.
They like, and that's what gives them that sense of safety and calm, knowing that they can run away. And then
Yeah.
what is the first thing people want to do when they gentle a horse? Slap a halter on it and then touch it while you're holding the lead rope.
Yeah, restraints, restraints.
Physically restraining the horse.
Hmm.
It's already in a pen where it can't run that far.
Yeah.
And so like people are like, oh, you want to start with a small pen. I'm like, not like
Agreed.
not huge, but like big enough that they feel like they can escape. Because if you take their coping mechanism away from them, you're instantly creating
Fighting a
more
losing battle.
problems than you would by
Yeah.
making them feel safe. So, like, taking away their feeling of safety is causing a lot of the problems rather than people, and they just assume that's just how horses are. And it's also like the magic of Mustangs too, because I say this all the time. Mustangs are like the most bomb-proof horses you can get because they understand their instincts. Like
Mhm.
a Mustang, most of the Mustangs we get in are like not going to be afraid of a plastic bag blowing in the wind because like they know what a cougar is. And they know that that's not a cougar. They understand their instincts for survival, whereas domestic horses, they just know their brain is wired to run away from things, and that's it. That's all
Yeah.
they know. And they've
They
never,
don't have exposure and experience. And
yeah.
most domestic horses are extremely sheltered. Like even traditionally trained, useful, successful horses live a sheltered life because we put them in a stall. We protect them from the big bad scary things. Oh, don't leave a tarp there, they might spook.
Mm.
No,
Unless you
leave the
have them
tarp
wear the
there.
tarp for training.
Yeah, exactly. Like they we do shelter our horses. Our Zephyr, he's the king of that. He was at a barn where he was rescued when he was 2 months old, and the woman who owned him was she was old and she was sick, and she was so afraid that her horses would get hurt or sick or die, and she was so afraid of them leaving her, of her losing them, that she didn't want him to potentially run and injure himself or put his head through a fence and injure himself. So she locked him in a stall, and he lived the first 8 years of his life in a box. And he never learned resilience and emotional regulation. He never learned how to go up and down. He never learned how to explore, how to try, how to he learned how to sit in a box for 8 years. And that has been the last 4 years we've had him. Our whole focus has been, can you bring your emotions up? Good. Can you bring him back down? Awesome. Can like it's a we've been desensitizing in the form of counter conditioning, but it's not about we can't counter condition everything he might see in the world. We just can't. And we
Right.
can't counter condition every scenario. Like we taught him about pool noodles, but the other day he stepped on one and it flipped up and it whacked him and he didn't care. But I never taught him that.
Mhm.
Like that's not a thing we taught him, but he understands the concept now and he generalized. And I think that it's really teaching him how to see and recognize a problem, think about it, and then come back down and re-regulate and be able to move on.
Mhm.
And that skill, I think, like you were talking about in your human regulation, that skill to be able to come back up and down is a big one. And that's what helps build their resilience to hard things in real life.
Yeah. So that circles back to our original topic. We went on quite a tangent there, but the topic of like don't handle your new Mustang with kid gloves, but be systematic and like being able to check in every day and say, okay, is this still the Mustang that I need to go super slow with, or are we in normal territory now? And we're getting good at that, I think. You know, it's
We're
it's
certainly improving.
yeah, and I think well with Penny, I think I pretty much caught on right away and was like, Tatiana, I think you could, I think she's normal now. I think you like
She's a
let's
horse now.
yeah, let's pick up the pace here. And noticing that and realizing and like with Hazel, it was she's such an interesting case because
Oh yeah.
Hazel's a client horse, and we've been trying to get her over her fear of ear touches, and it's been a struggle because like no one could halter her. They were like they'd have to like rope her, and no one knows why. She just has a thing about ears, and always has. And realizing I had one moment where I was like, "Oh my God, why am I even touching her ears? I don't need to touch her ears to put on a halter." And it occurred to me of like I could just do the neck hug method of haltering and not touch her ears at all. And I felt like an idiot because I was like, I should have done this months ago. And then I
Yeah.
remembered that she also had some very aggressive tendencies, and that would have been extremely dangerous. And everything
Yeah.
we've been doing worked. So I'm like, no, I'm actually very confident in the timing of introducing this concept because if I had tried to wrap my arms around her neck like 2 months ago,
he
I
would not be here today.
I would
Yeah.
have, yeah, it would have been a dangerous scenario, but now I'm
Yeah.
taught her step by step, nice and slow. Hey, I'm using a stirrup leather as a pretend
Perfect.
halter. Like I'm gonna dangle this thing around your neck and ho hug you and hold you, or like you cool? And she's like, this is a little weird, but like, yeah, we're good. And knowing that and trusting that like I didn't do it wrong. I just had to have the more on the baseline components of comfort with touch. Like there was so much because she was really well trained. Like she once you have a halter on her, very normal horse
She
very
shuts
normal
right
horse.
down.
But the
Yeah.
challenge is
Yeah.
always getting the
Yeah.
halter on. And so, but like working on other things like body touch and moving around and leading without the halter and picking up her feet and all that stuff, like we did it right. And now we're putting all the pieces back together. And so I'm excited for that. But it can be hard because you learn like, hey, I need to like every so often check in and second guess myself, make sure I'm not going too slow.
Hmm.
Um, and also trust the process. And that can be a hard balance to
I
do.
think it's important to recognize too that when you did that with Hazel, you didn't say, "Oh well, we can't touch her ears, so let's spend the next 3 months every day working on her ears." No, you'd work on her ears, and then you'd go work on her feet, and you'd work on touching her body, and you'd work on, can we do this? Can we do that? And then you go back to the ears,
Mhm.
and everything she gets stronger with all these experiences she's getting better at. You're unraveling stuff. And then what you ultimately did is opened more doors for yourself to be now you can do the head hug. You know, you created other paths for you and her to take that don't have the same old conditioning that elicited those emotions to begin with. So I think like a lot of people are like, well, it took you 3 months to touch your ears. No, you worked on 100 things, and the
Mm.
It's like
ears were one
technically
thing
yes, but
that
that's not what's going on here.
right, yeah, you worked on you problem solved all the things in her life, and that's the one that's sticking.
Yeah.
That's the one that still needs work,
Mm.
and that's okay. Every horse you're gonna have that one thing that like, oh well, this one is still really difficult for him, you know?
Yeah. Like Hank, we were talking about Hank's example of
Yes.
he gets really stressed. He makes angry stress face when he's hand feeding.
Mm,
But while he's doing the behavior you're cueing, like you're petting his shoulder, he's super relaxed. And
yeah.
so, like, shoulder pets aren't the problem, and the relaxation around hand feeding will either come in time or he will just have like a permanent reaction, but continue on his training and like learning when to not get stuck up on that one thing, especially as a positive reinforcement trainer, hand feeding the horse is kind of important. So we're
It's very
like, oh, we
convenient,
gotta fix
certainly.
this, but like, do we?
And
So,
is it
Also
is
with
it
Hanks,
something that'll unravel itself? Or is it something that maybe there's an issue that we just don't know? Like for a long time Fable has you'll feed her treats and she'll flemons. And I didn't I didn't understand that that's because she has broken teeth that
oh,
are painful. So sometimes she'll be chewing and she'll hit a spot and it'll hurt and she'll go,
oh,
and so I didn't understand. Like maybe Hank has a thing.
mm,
Maybe
I
he's
do. Sorry,
clenching
I
it.
do
Yeah.
suspect that he does. Sorry, I'm just going to talk
Yeah.
over you. Apparently,
No, no,
I
go.
suspect he might have dental issues. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think he's ever had a dental, and he's in his 20s because he's virtually
He's
untouchable.
still a wild
But
horse.
yeah, yeah. But another thing with Hank is like, yes, he does show the stress signals when hand feeding, but he also very willingly will still hand feed. Like
mm,
I'll
Yeah.
give him a choice, and he'll be like, "Yes, I'll absolutely hand feed." And he'll like do his little like thing, and then go right back to it. And I'm like, "You're continuing to say yes. You're being very calm with everything else you're doing. I'm
Yeah.
going to trust that you know what your deal is here and you're genuinely okay with this." We
mm,
do encounter horses who get so into the game and so hyped up that they will like keep going way past where they're comfortable. And like you kind of have to help them kind of regulate themselves until they sort of
Yeah.
get more stable.
Yeah.
But that does not seem to be what's going on with Hank. Hank is
Mhm.
like very calm and confident and consistent with his behaviors. He's not like escalating insanely or anything. He just has this one little issue that he seems to be very happy to kind of ignore while training, essentially. And it does
Mhm.
seem to be getting better on its own. So I'm like, you know what? Trusting your judgment, let's keep going.
Yeah.
But like that's very much a know your horse, be very confident in your ability to like tell what they're trying to tell you and
Yeah.
whatnot. Like it's not like a oh if your horse is even stressed, just go with it. They're probably fine. That's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Of
Yes, that's
course. Yeah.
that's the nuance of it. But it's one of those things where like sometimes you can be like too much of an expert in things, and it helps to look through like beginner eyes on things. Like we have our volunteer Lara, who is fairly new to horses and positive reinforcement, and she's doing an amazing job with Rusty.
Yeah,
Um,
she
because
is.
she doesn't know he's Rusty, right? So
Yeah.
so she just walks up to him and starts picking out his feet. And like she didn't
Like,
have
oh,
the
he's
kid.
okay with that now? I didn't realize he was cool with that yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Awesome.
like she doesn't have the built-in kid gloves. Uh
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and like knowing that it's okay to like to push them and like even have a setback. Like say she walked up to him and picked up his foot and he had one of his giant spooks. Like maybe that's just Rusty's weird quirk that we overlook, is like he's going to be very normal, but every once in a while he'll have this big jump backwards and then be right back at it, and then we just keep going. And like keep building around what you can, and like, and his spooks have gotten so much smaller.
Oh
And
my god.
that
Uh,
famous video of me
Rusty's a
scratching
horse.
my
I
face
thought he had.
and
No,
poof,
sorry.
gone.
I thought he had neurological issues when I first met him. I think it was about 2 years in that he had his first spook that wasn't a big spin and bolt. And
Mm,
like he
Oh.
would always come right back. He was clearly very engaged, but I was like, there's something like he can't like he does not have a normal fear response. There's something going on here that isn't quite right.
right.
And I remember the first time I saw him spook in place, a moth flew by and he saw it out of the corner of his eye and he like jumped and resettled and I almost cried. I'm
Hmm.
like I didn't think he was actually capable of that. I was
Yeah.
so happy for him.
Yeah. And
And
and being like, how normal are you today, Rusty? Like today, the other day I was putting
oh,
his feed bag on him, and a lot of times I do this because I'm just like an airhead and I'm not paying attention, and like, oh, it's Rusty. I need to be a little more careful. But I knew this time I'm like, this is Rusty, but I'm just curious because he's got a magnet on his in case we can't get it off. And the
it's
magnet
broken.
popped mid putting it on, and I like yanked his head a little bit to close the magnet. And I've done that several times, and some days he's totally fine with it. Some days it's a spook, but not a huge spook, and then he comes right back. And so like being able to not tiptoe and like let him have a little spook every now and again and see that he was able to run away, that's huge for him. And I think that it's actually helpful as opposed to like constantly being very careful with the thresholds, because then you don't know when they've come leaps and bounds. You don't know what horse you're working with today unless you
Yeah,
kind of push it.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say it's like
that's that.
the work with the horse you have today. Like yeah, that's generally stuff for like oh if your horse having an off day or something like you might have to like bring it down. It goes the other direction as well. You
Yeah,
know,
Yes.
like find out what horse you have today. You know, kindly of course, and work with them.
yeah.
Yes.
It comes down to asking the question, can we do this today? No? Okay. You
Mhm.
know, ask the question. It's okay to ask and get a
Yeah.
no.
And
It's okay.
and some
Yeah,
of them
don't
just
be afraid
need,
of getting a no.
yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them just need a warm up too. Like
Yes.
Hazel in particular, like you might go up to her with the leather strap and then she's like, "What is that?" And like you're like, "Oh, this is a bad day for Hazel. We shouldn't do this." And I'm like, you know, is it a bad day,
Yeah.
or will it take
Give it
five
five
clicks to
minutes.
get to be a normal day? Do you just need a
Yeah.
warm up? And a lot of times she just needs a warm up, but sometimes it is a bad day. But like knowing you don't want to like drill something that they're struggling with, you want to set them up for success, but at the same time, knowing that like trying it, a couple loops through of the behavior and seeing if she gets more comfortable with it
Hmm.
rather than writing it off as a bad day and let's not work on it. And that's another way to build resilience. You guys keep
Yeah.
talking. I need a quick bathroom break.
Okay. Yeah, and I was gonna say about we talk about we as trainers, we want to have really clean, consistent, appropriate training mechanics like
Mhm.
click, then take the treat, feed the treat properly, make sure the timing of your click is perfect. Make sure all of your mechanics are really clean and consistent and appropriate, and you're progressing the skill at the appropriate time, and you're not pushing too hard. You're setting them up for success. But some of my best trainers are these little kids who have no idea what they're doing. And it's because the same thing that you said about Laura. Sometimes they just do something and the horse ends up being awesome about it. Sometimes the kids are really messy with their training mechanics and the horses learn, oh, don't worry about when their hand is in the treat pouch. That is not the bridge signal. The bridge signal is actually the click because the kids are so messy, the horses end up learning, they learn more from every direction. They learn when things are wrong and when things are right, not just the perfect picture of how things are. So at some point, horses need, you can go from perfect training, but then at some point, you can go to the imperfect, messy training.
Yeah. But yeah, if I feel a story from experience. So like I started out my training basically like on the incredibly difficult horses. My first sort of normal Mustang was my first personal Mustang, Sandwich, who was untouched from the wild and average. And I'm like, he's so easy. What's going on? This can't be right. And Mackenzie's like, he's really not that easy. He's normal. You don't have a normal base of stuff to work with here. Um, and and so I was still using like a lot of those techniques for like, the more like, horses with trauma issues or like, so-called untamable ones and whatnot on this perfectly normal horse. And I ended up accidentally creating a perfectionist. I he would get so stressed if I cued him for something, but I was a little bit off. Maybe my arm was in the wrong position, maybe it wasn't facing the right way. He would know exactly what I wanted him to do, but he just immediate stress face and he'd like wait until I fixed it until he'd do it. I actually at one point I was like, he knows the verbal cues, but he won't do them unless I'm also doing the hand signal. What's going on? That's so weird. I know he knows that. I don't understand. And so Sandwich is night blind. He has two copies of the leopard complex gene, so the eyes just don't work in the dark at all. So I'm like, I know. We'll train at night, and I'll just use verbal cues so he can't like look for the visual signal because he can't see. And he's fine working at night. It's fine. What this guy did, we were working on head down, and what the cue for that was, I'd say, like head down, and I'd like point my finger down, and he, put his head down. I was like head down, and what he did, he came over, he found my arm, ran his hand down my hand to make sure that I was pointing downwards correctly, and then he did it. And he did that every time. I would try, like I'd just say head down. I wouldn't have my hand because he can't see. It's nighttime. Just listen. And he would find my arm and be like, "You're not doing it right. I don't know what to do if you're not doing it right." And I'm like, I've created a problem. Everything's
Yeah.
fine now, but that was just an unexpected pitfall.
Yeah.
If you are too precise with everything, you can absolutely create a horse who gets really stressed if everything isn't exactly how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm really stressed. I've got to like step in and clarify that Sandwich is like an extremely well behaved and perfect horse. We're talking about like if we cue a trick, then he's like which would like, but like I grab him, halter him, lead him.
Oh yeah, he does not care.
The
He's
vet was here. He gave him a shot. The fair. He's like he'll get on the trailer like excellent horse.
he's like
Slight
broke
weirdo.
broke at this point, quote unquote. He's just very strange personality wise.
He is, but that's a good lesson for us of like, and that is kind of a weird example of like bubble wrap kid gloves
Yes.
of like I'm gonna train him at night rather than just stand there with your arms crossed and just say head down
It
and
didn't
just
even
wait
occur to me back then.
and just
Yeah.
and
It's like,
just let
oh,
him be
he's showing
uncomfortable.
stress. I can't let my baby be stressed.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and your baby doesn't know what to do trick wise unless you show him exactly what. Look what you did.
Yes, you're a
You know,
helicopter parent.
exactly. It's like, my God, the generational trauma can go cross species. Why did no one warn me?
Exactly. And that's where, like, yes, messy, poor, inappropriate training can create stress,
Mm,
but overly perfect, strict, precision training can also create stress. We have to have balance there. We need to
mm,
find the comfortable middle. Horses have to learn how to generalize. Like,
Mhm.
when for my first horse that had no previous training and I trained with all positive reinforcement, and I used her to make a video series of training behaviors. So I taught her everything, and nobody else worked with her. And that was my Clydesdale Wispy. And when somebody else went to work with her, I was showing them, like, no, you have to cue like this. And then
mm,
I was like, no, wait, you cue and let her figure it out. She has to learn that, you're not going to cue exactly like I cue. You're not the same height as me. You're not the same shape, color, everything as me. So, but she can learn that that cue is the same cue in all of these different scenarios. So, learning to generalize is I'd say even more important than learning the behavior in the first place.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Are we done?
Let's check the list and see if there's anything that we missed that we want to add back
Oh
in.
my gosh.
Getting hung up on that one little trigger. Yep, we talked about Hank and his food thing and Hazel and her ears. Um, lacking progress, lack skill in a certain area and how the progression should look for Soji. Oh yeah, that's like people who, well, like people who are like, I need to halter, and like that has to come first, and realizing that is not the case. When to
Mhm.
tiptoe and when to take off the kid gloves, um, and when to like let them be okay with discomfort or get the wrong answer. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
I
don't
think
want
we.
to stress them out, but they can, like, I think you mentioned the perfect what we're looking for of level is them to be like, "Huh, I don't know the answer. Um, is it this?" That's like that's the right amount of discomfort. If
Right.
they're like, "I don't know the answer. Oh my God, what's
Yeah.
gonna happen?" Okay, yeah, maybe you can help them out a little bit.
Break it down a
But like
little bit more.
you
Mm.
can push for that, like, let me explore, let me try, let me do different things. We actually, that reminded me of when we had Oro. He was a horse that did not like if he did not know the correct answer. He wanted you to physically tell him what the answer was, even if you had to use mild aversives to like put him in position and be like, this is where I want you, click and treat. And like he wanted that because he needed the security of being told exactly how to get the answer. So what we had to do with him was teach him how to learn, teach him how to try. And enrichment was a huge part of that because letting him learn how to problem solve his environment without a human involved, because he had aggression issues, that allowed him to have tantrums, to have meltdowns, to go through his full emotional range of problem solving and learn, oh, I guess I didn't have to have a tantrum. I could have just flipped the cone over and there would be treats under it. Like I didn't have to
Oh, the
kill the
situation
cone.
was
It
okay,
was
actually.
there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's like I always use the example of me and my like cell phone games. I have a couple of games on my phone where they're like, oh, I'm really into the game and like I gotta get the answer. I'm gonna throw my phone out the window. And
Yes.
and I actually do that as like a mindfulness activity of like sitting with a little bit of discomfort and uncertainty and
Yeah.
then being able to bring it back down. And I recently got one that's like way harder than my previous one. And honestly, the level of resilience I've built, it takes me like 3 days to pass a single level, and it's like a 2-minute level. And I just literally,
Wow.
I'll play the same level over and over, 20 minutes a day, like trying to figure out the pattern. Like the
Yeah.
brain comes back online when
Yes.
you can be like, I know there's an answer in here. And for like, it's funny with because the games are such a good example, for so humans can feel this because I was like, is this game rigged? do I need to pay the 99 cents for the cheat code to do it? Like,
Yes.
is there a solution without doing the cheater codes? And I was like, I'm stubborn enough to find out, and like spent days playing this one little level. It's little blocks you have to move around and you have to get them to the color of their exit. And like learning these new techniques and new strategies and all this
Yeah.
stuff, and just being like, I'm not, I'm just gonna keep moving. And sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to play this stupid game. There's no like path to an answer. And I'm literally all I do is move the blocks around with no
Yeah.
goal in mind, no problem solving, no strategy. But like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to move them all around randomly until I get some inspiration.
Yeah,
And
until
then
something clicks. Yeah.
I've learned through playing this game that there always is a solution to it. So I've like that's off the table. And now that I know that there's always a solution, I will try really hard, really calmly, and just be like, oh well, I guess I'm not gonna get it today. I'll try again tomorrow. Keep trying, keep
Yes.
trying. And
See, and that's
I think that's
exactly what we're going for.
it's yeah, like I tell all of my students, please download this game, and I think Tatiana's the only one who actually has. But it's so helpful to like feel what the horse feels when it feels like you're trying to solve this puzzle that is there even an answer?
Yeah,
Like,
are you cheating me?
are you
You're
messing with
trying
me?
to steal
Is
my
this
treats.
is this random? Am I relying on like the stars to align so that I get my click?
Yep.
Um, and building up that resilience in a way, and enrichment toys are great for that because you also don't want them to like associate you with that level of frustration when they do need
Yeah.
to learn to work through things. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so like
Exactly.
games, like we've got our Pez dispenser, which is two giant water bottles on a little feeding trough, and they have to spin to get the food to fall out. And I remember Juno trying to figure that out, and he stood there for over an hour
Oh,
because he
honey.
knew there was food. And this is like what I
Yeah.
aspire to in my gameplay of like he knew there was food in there. He was calm about it. He was gonna get
He
it.
was
Didn't
so
know
chill
how.
the whole time.
So,
Yeah.
but he did not give up. And he had free
No.
food that he could have been eating, but he was like, I need to solve this problem. I'm going to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Most horses solve the problem in like 7 minutes, but
Oh, honey. Oh.
resilience
Yeah.
and
And
skill.
It's very
that's
sweet. There were some issues with his technique there, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
Wasn't quite
Oh.
figuring it out.
And
But
that's
goddamn, did he
Oro. And
try.
then the other thing that we did, I think enrichment, like enrichment should be part of every horse's training program all the time throughout their whole life. You guys have built-in enrichment with them living in a wooded track because there is life happening all around them all the time. But like if you have a paddock like I do, it's a paddock. It's a big empty rectangle. You've got to enrich it because they need to learn how to use their brain, how to bring their emotions up and down, how to engage with the world around them, how to problem solve. But then the other thing that we did with Oro that really kind of created a breakthrough for him is one winter we were really kind of stuck more inside and it was snowy out. And we would, in protected contact, we did a shaping game called Show Me Something New. And every day we would find something like he would offer behaviors, anything, and we wouldn't take whatever we took yesterday. So one day, the first day, of course, it's always like pawing or something annoying, like throwing their head or, something that, and we'll click it a little bit and shape it to something that we like. But then the next day, give me a different thing. Give me something different. Use a different foot. And then we'd bring their attention to, okay, well, now do something with your back left foot. Now do something with your tail. Now and then we'd shape that thing for the 10 minutes that day. And then the next day we'd do something different. And we never finished any of those behaviors. We let them all go. We let them all disappear into the void. But by doing that, he learned to utilize his entire body to try to find the click. He learned to think and problem solve and be aware of what's happening in his body to create the click. And that everything he's doing, not just engaging with a physical object because we did start a lot with like a physical object to kind of give him the focused like
More
guidance of
concrete
like
thing.
yeah, like do something with this. And then we went to like now do something with your body.
Mhm.
And it really it brought awareness to his body, but it also brought awareness to his ability to create the click. And so he knew a click was always there. Like you said about your game. The answer is always there. I just need to find what it is. And
Mhm.
it builds his resilience substantially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right then. I think we covered all of our points and then some.
I think so too. That was a good one.
Yeah. All right. See you later, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.